Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
And we welcome you to this Monday edition of the show with so much to do over the next 60 minutes. Cast of characters to help us do it. Jerry Bonkowski will be here from EssentiallySports.com. Tyler Reddick wins again. His fourth win of the season in NASCAR. Amazing. Does it at Darlington. And finally, the odds makers are starting to take notice when it comes to his chances to win the season-ending Cup Series championship. Jerry Bonkowski will join us later in the show. We'll talk about some of that and what propelled him to this latest win. There is obviously NCAA tournament stuff to get to, and we'll get to that coming up here in just a couple of minutes in the big story. NFL news, there is big news with regard to one of the top receivers in the game, and also these comments from Cam Skattebo over the weekend that had us all sort of scratching our heads. Just about everything Cam Skattebo does these days, the Giants' young running back, makes us scratch our heads these days. So not much of a surprise there. We'll get into that coming up a little later on in the show. But we start things as we always do on this Monday. It's time for the big story. And the big story in college basketball this weekend, to the chagrin of many, is the death of the Cinderella story. Look, I think it's a one-year thing. I don't think you take, and I know some people will point to last year and say less Cinderella stories. And I know NIL is going to cut down on the number of Cinderella stories that we see. There were some great day one and day two stories of this NCAA tournament. The high points of the world, that sort of thing. But ultimately, when you look at this tournament and the way it is set up, and the way college basketball is set up, frankly, college football as well, it is going to be about the Blue Bloods. And this NCAA tournament now, when you start to look at the bracket, it is going to be about these Blue Bloods. You know, look at the Sweet 16. Where I think, by the way, in this East regional, you may have the best four teams. You may have the best regional semifinals that we've ever seen. And I don't do hyperbole. Anybody who watches this show long enough and has followed me long enough knows I'm not one that is, we avoid that at all costs on this show. But when you have Duke and St. John's, John Shire, who took over for Mike Krzyzewski, leading this Duke program. Rick Pitino, one of the greatest coaches of all time. How many teams has he led in the NCAA tournament? Then you have Michigan State with Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley with UConn. With UConn trying to win 3 championships in 4 years. Again, in this era of college basketball, that being so difficult to do. Think whatever you want of Dan Hurley and his antics on the sideline that I have talked about ad nauseum. This might be one of the best regional semifinals that we ever see. Coming up later this week. And obviously we'll preview that with Bill Bender coming up in a few minutes. But the others are no chopped liver here. Iowa and Nebraska, the battle of these two Midwest schools. With Nebraska having never won a tournament game, now winning 2 of them to advance to the Sweet 16. Iowa, obviously the big upset of Florida, occurring on Sunday night. But again, I think if we're all being honest, of all the number 1 seeds in this NCAA tournament, if I had told you to pick the one that you thought would go out the earliest, it probably would have been Florida. And they are gone. Illinois and Houston. Look, anybody who knows me knows when it comes to Big Ten basketball, it bores me to tears. So I'm rooting for Houston and obviously the Kelvin Sampson story, which is obviously going to be front and center there. Then you go and look at, the West Regional with Arizona and Arkansas. We know how good Arizona has been all season long. Arkansas. Oh, just some guy named John Calipari leading that team. And then Texas and Purdue. You all know the story by now with Matt Painter. the various disappointments that have been Purdue basketball over the years, despite the fact that they've been in the tournament and won more games over the last number of years. One of those teams, again, one of those coaches, one of the best coaches to never win a title, Matt Painter, who I don't think is as good a coach as some people do, but we could agree to disagree on that. Texas as an 11 seed with Sean Miller, who was once one of the darlings in the coaching circles in college basketball. Now he's led this Texas team that I didn't think would get out of the first round based on what we saw of them in the first four, now winding up in the Sweet 16. An amazing story unto itself. Michigan, that has been the juggernaut of college basketball all season long. They were so good, we didn't even put highlights of them in here. They were so dominant. The games were so boring. They beat up on a good St. Louis team. Michigan and Alabama. Alabama losing its second leading scorer. We chronicled the story last week. The weed story that took place there. And then you have Tennessee and Iowa State going at it. So, I mean, it is as good as it gets for the Sweet 16. Now, for that to happen, it means you have to lose the Cinderellas. But I have to say, as much as I love a good Cinderella story, give me High Point all day. We all know at the end of the day, those teams are not going to win a tournament. So what we're doing is we're clearing the brush early. And I hate referring to these schools as brush. But ultimately, they are college basketball brush. Because High Point's not winning this tournament. But you know who has a shot to win this tournament? Any one of these 16 teams could wind up winning this tournament if you followed college basketball this year. And not just because they're one of the final 16, but we all thought going into this tournament there were 14 or 15 teams that could win this tournament. Now you're seeing that. So the downside is you lose the Cinderellas. The upside is you're going to get such good basketball later this week between the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. The potential matchups on the table. If you went with chalk in your brackets, you're sitting pretty right now. Because you didn't get the dearth of upsets that we normally see. But boy, you're going to have some great basketball to watch over the next several days as we get into these Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. Bill Bender will join us coming up in a couple minutes. We'll get his thoughts on all of the college basketball. Sam Yarnell will be here too. Later in the show, Jerry Bonkowski, NFL talk as well. Just getting started on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. You've heard what I had to say in the big story. Let's talk college hoops. Bill Bender, Sporting News, hangs out with us every Monday on the show. Sam Yarnell joins us as well. All right, guys. Look, I mean, the predictions, the dire predictions that we heard from people was that we were going to see less Cinderella stories. We were going to see more chalk. And when you look at the Sweet 16, Bill, that's kind of what we got.
Yeah, I mean, I say you get what you pay for, and we're paying the players now. And the large conferences are winning, and what did you expect? Yes, the Big Ten and the SEC dominated the first weekend of the tournament. No, there's not a lot of room for the mid-major Cinderella. I mean, take Miami, for example. They have a great season, good first win in the first four. I thought they played well. And then Tennessee, who is kind of a second-tier SEC team this year, slams the door on them. High Point had a nice run against Arkansas, but this is what the tournament is. The upside to it is you look at this weekend, Thursday and Friday, and we have some fabulous matchups, but
really do.
And the cost is Cinderella.
It is.
Bill.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
You kind of touched on it there. There have been two times in the history of the NCAA tournament, right? This is the 41st year, I believe, that we're doing this NCAA tournament with 64 teams. There have been two times where the Sweet 16 has been made up by all major conferences. It's the last two NCAA tournaments, this one and 2025's. Is Cinderella dead altogether? Is there any hope for a mid-major ever making it back, Bill, even to a Sweet 16?
I mean, I'm sure it'll happen occasionally, but I think it'll be even fewer and far between than it used to be. I mean, again, you have these Texas, for example. Texas is your double-digit Cinderella this year. Texas, the one with, however many millions of dollars they put into the basketball program, and they went on a nice run, but that's the case of the last 3 years. NC State made a Final Four run. Arkansas, with John Calipari, who screamed Cinderella, was the double-digit guy last year. And now we have Texas. That's what it looks like. And it's trending, Sam, more and more to me like, okay, are we just going to do the Power Conference tournament? This lends credence to that argument, unfortunately.
I'm going to be more optimistic and just say that this year, this is sort of what we got. Like, I'm going to try to take the more optimistic approach towards this and say it's just this year. But I want to get your thoughts on this East region, because we don't do hyperbole on this show. I'm one that is not want for hyperbole on this show. When you're talking about Duke, St. John's, Michigan, and UConn, is this the best region? Is this the best regional sort of semifinal that we've ever seen?
I mean, just think about if we rank those four coaches and where do they rank among the best coaches in college basketball now and even all time when you're talking about Pitino and Tom Izzo. And then you put Hurley and John Shire. I think John Shire is probably the best coach in the country without a national title, or unless it's Kelvin Sampson. The coaches in this Sweet 16 it's ridiculous how good it is. So again, that's the cost of us complaining about the first weekend is you get Houston and Illinois and you get this East region, which is absolutely ridiculous in terms of talent. St. John's, Duke, what a game that's going to be. Michigan State, UConn. I mean, those are two coaches that you learn to trust in the tournament. And for the Big East, this is a big weekend for those two schools. They have the best record technically of the multi-bid conferences at 4-1, but we all look at those records. It only matters if you get to the Final Four.
If you told me UConn would win that game last night, getting what they got out of solo ball, which was nothing, and getting relatively little out of Terrace Reed until late in that game, I would have had you peeing into a cup. Like, I mean, they're not supposed to win that game by 16, Bill.
Reed got all his points and rebounds out on Friday night, apparently, in an amazing performance there. And Alex Caravan really stepped up in that game, made a couple shots. He was just all over the place in the second half, and they were able to knock out UCLA. It's a very good UConn team, very good St. John's team. I know that was a little bit of a rock fight with Kansas, but could be in for round 4 between those teams at this rate.
Yeah, it'll certain. I am ecstatic to see Hurley versus Izzo. I think that those two personalities going at it on the sidelines is going to be appointment viewing. But we're talking about all these rivalry games, Bill, and the one that sticks out to me, Iowa, Nebraska. This may be the most contentious one. I mean, you know this from covering college football. These two schools get together in sports, and it does not go well between those two fan bases. I wanted to talk though about the amazing win that Iowa had yesterday, knocking off the defending champions Florida, and I believe it's still remains true that since 2007, I don't think a single defending champ besides the ones who have won it, right, have made it back to the Sweet 16. So what did you take away from Florida's performance against Iowa yesterday? And can Iowa be another one of these modern Cinderellas we're talking about, a power conference with a low seed?
Well, yeah, kind of. And I think that Iowa-Nebraska game, they're very similar teams. They move the ball well. Their leading scorers can shoot, whether it's Sturts or Sanford. And that's a mirror image game. And like you were saying, I'm so used to watching those guys on Black Friday, when they play each other after Thanksgiving, and it's normally a 17-14, 17-16 type rock fight. These two teams can get up and down and shoot the ball, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching them get after it. Nebraska making history with their school history anyway, with their first couple tournament wins, and Iowa, Florida kind of screwed that up at the end of last night with the defense. Charles Barkley was exactly right. Why were they, pressing the tempo? Because then you leave yourself open for an open three-pointer, and there you have it.
Yeah, I was perplexed by the way they defended there in that possession, and leaving Fulgaris basically wide open there for that shot. Of all the one seeds, though, if I had said before the tournament here in the final 30 seconds of this segment, if I had said of all the one seeds, Florida would be the one to go out first, you probably would have agreed with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the way that Arizona, Duke in the second round takes care of business, and Arizona and Michigan look very, very good. Headed towards facing each other in the semifinal good.
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk about Michigan, who we haven't even mentioned yet, who's just steamrolling everybody. But we'll get to Michigan coming up here in a couple of minutes as we continue the conversation with Kurt Heelan of Pro Basketball Talk. I said Pro Basketball Talk, Kurt Heelan. Talking with Bill Bender, who's joining us. Get some thoughts with him from the Sporting News. Get some thoughts on this NCAA tournament as we head into the Sweet 16. And again, a lot of chalk. We'll preview some of the matchups as we continue on SportsWrap. Don't go anywhere. All right, let's continue the conversation with Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Does a terrific job on college hoops, college football, all of that good stuff. So we've ignored Michigan for the first segment. As you handicap this final 16, is that where your head is at right now?
I would still lean. That's who I picked in the Sporting News predictions. And it's just that they have a tough road. I mean, Alabama can score too. That's going to be an up-tempo game both ways. Elliot Cadeau is going to have to handle the ball well. And Iowa State would be a tough matchup for them if it comes to that in the Elite Eight, the way that they're playing. It would be like a Big Ten fistfight type team. But super impressed with how Michigan handled St. Louis in the second round. Was telling Sam about that. Ade Amara is a cheat code at center with the blocks and the altered shots and the dunks and the things that he can do. And when they get out and run, they're really tough to beat. So, yeah, they have a chance to do it. I just think their bracket's a lot harder than, say, Arizona, who I think will beat Texas and be in the Elite Eight and probably get to the Final Four.
I'm shocked Texas after what I saw from Texas in the first four, I didn't think there was any way we'd see them in the Sweet 16. I mean, they tried to figure out every way to blow that game in the first four. And then to see what we've seen out of them in the last two games, I'm kind of surprised, Bill.
Yeah, it really is. They definitely got through and have a chance here. Sean Miller, of all coaches. And again, we talk about the coaching pedigree in this Sweet 16, whether it's Tommy Lloyd, who was Sporting News Coach of the Year, Sean Miller, he's been there, done that. I mean, this has been a nice run for him. Kelvin Sampson, one of the stats that snuck up on me was Houston getting to the second weekend for the seventh straight year. Purdue does that. They've shook off kind of the upset label, and now Matt Painter has something. I mean, I had Miami beating Purdue. That didn't happen.
Me too.
So, I mean, you trust the coaches. If we were ranking the coaches 1 to 16, I think I have to do that at Sporting News this week, by the way. It's a heck of a list.
Bill, we talked all season about, Duke and Virginia and all these ACC teams, and you look up at the Sweet 16 and, well, Virginia got knocked out by Tennessee. Duke is the only ACC team left in the Sweet 16. Did we overrate the ACC over the course of this year, and was it just because of how good Duke is by themselves?
I don't know that we overranked the ACC. I just think those other schools got to prove it. Louisville's improved under Kelsey. They're just not there yet. Virginia definitely improved, but not there yet. Like I said, missed on Miami. But, I mean, again, Lucas is a first-year coach. So, which brings me to Jerry McNamara, because Syracuse is so far off the grid of competition and competing even for a tournament berth that hopefully Jerry can do that there. And then you get into the North Carolina question as we're recording, Hubert Davis, who knows what the future lies there. And it doesn't sneak on me that, I obviously they haven't hired away from the Dean Smith coaching tree since Dean Smith retired. It's always been a player or a coach. They're going to have to go away from that. Bill Guthridge, Matt Doherty, Roy Williams, Hubert Davis, all off the Dean Smith tree as either a player or a coach. That's the big question for the program now, in my opinion.
I say this all the time. Don't be the guy that follows, Howard Stern on radio when he leaves to go to satellite. You don't want to be, Adam Carolla. You want to be, or David Lee Roth. You want to be the guy after the guy. And in the case of Jerry McNamara, he's got the perfect spot now because he's not the guy after Boeheim. He's the guy after the guy who replaced Boeheim.
And people love him up there, obviously with his as the player. So I think he'll be given a little bit of a leash. But, back to the Hubert Davis thing, Michigan used to do that in football. And they'd have to get the Michigan man and all that. Mm-hmm. And I think on basketball on some level. And look, you step away, you take a shot, and you go get Dusty May, and look what happens to your program. So that's my way of saying I don't know that North Carolina, if they let go of Hubert, take a chance on a Mark Byington. Take a chance on, somebody out of the Big 12 that you like, because that's the way that you can get your program back to where you want it to be.
That's interesting that you say that, Bill. And I'm curious, this is going to stray the conversation a little bit, but as we talked a little bit about in the last segment, the less, Cinderellas we're seeing from the mid-major conferences, in your opinion, has that changed the coaching pipelines within college basketball? No one's going to get a Shaka Smart these days from VCU, who just went on a tournament run.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Hurt stayed at St. Louis. Some of these guys will stay at those jobs maybe. But I think it's just a disparity between, just like in football, the Big Ten and the SEC and the revenue and the money and the contracts that are generated from those two conferences and everybody else. And just look at the tournament results. Those two conferences have the most teams in the Sweet 16. I made the joke at Sporting News last night that it should be called the Big Ten Invitational, but you guys already know I'm a Big Ten homer anyway. It just amplifies the pressure for the Big Ten to end this 26-year national championship drought, and this is their best chance to do it.
Did Miami of Ohio validate itself by getting the one win that it did?
I think so, because, I look at it like I had actually helped them to play that first 4 game when I was kind of arguing against it, because had they played Tennessee in a 6-11 game to start the tournament and got blown out like that, then I think we react a little bit differently than the way that they beat SMU. So they did get a March moment, which is good. And I think they did validate being in the tournament as an at-large bid. It's either that or I guess we could add Indiana in that spot or the next best team in the SEC. It's so far down the depth chart, I don't even know who that team would have been. Auburn. Put Auburn in there.
Bruce Pearl, line 1.
Yeah.
Bill, we've got 8 games coming up later this week. I know we're a few days out still, but if I could only let you watch one of the 8 games in the Sweet 16, which one are you picking?
I would watch St. John's and Duke, but most fascinated by Illinois and Houston. Illinois, with the way that they're playing, the height, can they score over the top of that Houston defense? I did pick, in our Sporting News bracket that's on the site, I did pick Illinois to the Final Four. I didn't think they'd look as good as they did this weekend. They've looked awesome. So can Brad Underwood take them past Kelvin Simpson and Houston? And then the best potential Elite 8 matchup to me would be Michigan and Iowa State. That would be a lot of fun to watch as well.
I'd love to get UConn and St. John's for a 3rd time this year.
Yep.
4th time. Would it be a 4th time? 4th time.
4.
How many times do you get that in college basketball? It's very rare.
But it'll be a hell of a game if they go at it too, because obviously back and forth with the Final Four berth and everything in the Big East on the line would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it certainly would. And UConn with a chance to do something, win 3 titles in 4 years would be remarkable. In sort of the roller coaster ride that it's been here the last couple of years with Dan Hurley and this team. Bill Bender, terrific work over at the Sporting News. Check him out there. Yeoman's work for you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
We're coming back. Welcome back on this Monday. Let's do some NFL. I was extremely disappointed in the comments from Cam Skattebo that recently surfaced. It's just, he's Rob Gronkowski, only 10 times dumber.
No. Nope. Jumping in right there to stop you. Jumping in there right there to stop you. Jumping in right there.
He wants to be a goofball, though. That's the thing.
Rob Gronkowski is one of the, I'm going to be conservative here, 5 greatest tight ends to ever wear
I'm not talking about from a
pads.
player. I'm not talking about from a player
They can't
standpoint.
be put in the same conversation. Rob Gronkowski's dumbness and antics were at least somewhat justified by the fact that he was one of the greatest to ever do it. Cam Skattebo just didn't even graduate college, just got into the NFL like a year and a half ago.
Well, listen, he comes out in this podcast or whatever appearance he makes. He calls asthma an excuse. He calls CTE an excuse. Downplays both of them. Just from the CTE standpoint, here's what blows my mind. The NFL is a very close-knit fraternity. We have this conversation with Nick Ferguson all the time when we talk to him. And I'm sure this has got to drive him nuts, a story like this. I don't know how you go into these locker rooms and deal with players from the past and things like this when you're Cam Skattebo. Who knows? Who might have a 3-year career in the NFL? He might have an 8-year career in the NFL. Who the hell knows? Who knows? We don't know. But to try and put yourself in such a situation by saying these sorts of things, like, where does this come from that you're going to call CTE an excuse and basically downplay the impact of head trauma that players have suffered, let alone the fact that he looks like the embodiment of CTE when you watch the way he behaves on and off the field. Sam, I'm rarely at a loss for words, but the guy's a meathead. The guy is a certified meathead.
That's such a that is so kind. That is putting it so kindly towards him. That is giving so much benefit of the doubt to this young man. By the way, crazy that I can call him a young man. He is younger than me. That's wild. But yeah, so Cam Skattebo, you want to talk about excuses? Let's talk about excuses. Let's talk about excuses that got Arizona State into the college football playoff back when you were playing in it. That cut dig deep enough yet? No. Let's talk about the excuse of your ankle, whatever happened. Why weren't you back on the field the next week? Right? If all these are just excuses, what are we doing here, Cam Skattebo? This kid is a lunatic. He's dumb. I can't believe that there is an actual person who would be getting paid to play football who would come out and say this for a multitude of reasons, aside from the fact that it's just scientifically inaccurate, right? Aside from the fact that there are members of his NFLPA fraternity who have lost their lives because of this incredible, horrible disease. It is a numbskull thing for him to say. It is a dumb thing for him to say. It is a stupid thing for him to say. There aren't enough adjectives that I could use to describe what Cam Skattebo said. But what I will say is this about Cam Skattebo, because I think he does, as a young person, as a fellow young American, as we both are, there is something that people our age tend to frequently forget, and that is exactly who you're pissing off when you say things like this. And you have to realize, Cam Skattebo, before you play for the New York Giants, you are a member of the National Football League Players Association. The National Football League Players Association has been at the forefront of concussion research and concussion testing and bringing all of this information to light that we know about concussions and CTE and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, Cam Skattebo, not only are you making enemies out of people who at one point in their sports fandom wanted to root for you and wanted you to have a successful professional career, you're now also annexing the people who build your contracts, the people who give you benefits, the people who will take care of you after you get CTE from doing stupid stuff like this.
And I'm literally looking at a video of him smashing his head into a brick wall. And I'm just like, okay. His mom came out and defended him, by the way, on social media. Mom comes out and says, well, they're going to twist things in the media. He made a mistake. She basically took the approach of, not my boy. No, he wasn't the one throwing rocks in the park at little kids. It was everybody else throwing rocks in the park. And then you kind of figure out how we got to where we got to, partly with Cam Skattebo, when you have a mom who's out there basically saying, no, not my boy. It's the media's fault. They all did something wrong, Sam.
I don't know what the kind of statute of limitations on all these things are. I'm not well versed enough in the legal field for all that. Is it too late to call CPS on her? It feels like we should be calling CPS with something like that.
Oh my God. So That's just your latest Cam Skattebo story from the New York Giants. And who knows? Like I said, might be a 3-year career, might be an 8-year career. Either way, he's not ingratiating himself to his.
Can I bet the no?
If there is a no to bet on it, you can bet the no on it. News from the NFL. It's breaking news at the time we're talking about it, but by the time you see it, it will have been another edition of the Broken News. And broken news is this guy, the one and only Jackson Smith-Njigba, getting a monster cut. He's getting the bag, Sam Yarnell. How much? What did they give him? $168 million or something like that?
$120 million guaranteed over 4 years, which is incredible. Yeah, the numbers that all the agents will put out, the hundreds. Well, he could earn up to that much if he's the best wide receiver in the game, Jason. But what you need to know is this guy just got guaranteed $30 mil a year. He is living large as that JSN.
Well, this is what comes with when you win a Super Bowl and trying to figure out who to pay, who not to pay. We talked about this as soon as the offseason hit for the Seahawks, and obviously something they are going to have to continue to deal with. All right, we're coming back. Jerry Bonkowski talks NASCAR next. We continue on this Monday. And if it is a Monday, it can mean one thing. We're talking NASCAR. Recapping this weekend's race out in Darlington, where Tyler Reddick wins again. Just when we thought he was coming back to the pack, Jerry Bonkowski of Essentially Sports, it is Tyler Reddick that gets the win. He's been the pole sitter, in four races, or 3 of the 4 wins he's had this year. He's been on the pole. What has allowed him? We see so many times guys get on the pole and, things get out of whack. This is the 3rd time this year he's been on the pole and the 4th time he's won.
It's an amazing fact, and you just have to wonder what has been the big change. No one can really come with an explanation or a decision of why he's been doing so well. Not only winning, but like you said, the polls. But the thing is, the way I look at it, and I wrote a piece about this last night, is that there's just seems to be a different focus within 23XI, especially his team, the number 45 team. There just seems to be a different focus than they've had in previous years. Look at last year. Didn't even win one race. Previous to that, he had 8 wins over, I think, 3 years. Nothing last year. It was just really an off year for him. And then all of a sudden he comes out of the gate and just keeps winning and winning and winning. Right now, I heard somebody say something yesterday, I think it was on the TV broadcast, that he is the odds-on favorite to win the championship. We're only 6 races into the season. By the way, how crazy is that? We're already a 1/6 of the way through the season. But they're saying that he is the favorite to win the championship already. That's pretty heady, in my opinion, that we're that short into the season, and he's already got 66% of the wins. The guy's just being phenomenal this year.
Yeah, he was. Chris Buescher put up a good effort yesterday, and I will give credit to our guy Sam to Tino Patino, because he said last week on the show he thought even at like 34-1 he loved Buescher, and Buescher had an opportunity in this race. A couple of guys had opportunities.
Oh, RFK Racing entirely. Look at Keselowski. He finishes second. Had it not been maybe for within about 30, 35 laps when Tyler Reddick took the lead, it could have been Keselowski's win. He hasn't won since 24, I think it's been. So, he was definitely in the position to win. He needs a win. There's a lot of guys that need wins, but Tyler Reddick, he just finds a way. He's playing smart. He takes the pole. Then he kind of backs off a little bit in the midway part of the race. Then he comes back in the 3rd stage, the final stage, and he wins. It's not a really hard thing to do, but he's finding a way to do it with such aplomb and such success that other guys are going to probably take a look at what he's doing. They're going to say, well, maybe we should do this too, rather than just try to get the lead and keeping the lead, which is always very difficult to do. You kind of pace yourself, and he's just doing a great job pacing himself.
Does the 2nd place finish give Keselowski some hope? Because he even said after the race he didn't think they had the car necessarily to win this race when he was talking in the post-race on track interview, and maybe that was just him trying to kind of be coy because of the fact they didn't win, or as he called it, first loser. Right. But could Keselowski have won this race? Should he have won this race?
You don't lead 147 laps and not win a race. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, he was in the position to win. There's no question about it. I mean, this is probably one of the best races I've seen out of Keselowski in at least a year. And, he's had a couple of good races already this year. So I think he's knocking on the door. It's about time. I mean, he's 41, 42 years old. He's got to be feeling bad that he hasn't been able to be in victory lane. But before he, the whole switch over from Penske to Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, he had 35 wins. Now he's had one since he moved over. So that's very telling. In the last 4 years he's been with the RFK now. So I think that Keselowski is definitely primed, and he's the kind of guy that once he gets going, he could very easily pull off 3, 4, maybe 5 wins in the season, much like Kyle Busch can do it. But the thing is, you've got to get over that hump. You've got to get that win. If you get the win, then it's going to lead to another win, and then another one, and hopefully more than that. So I think that even though he said he was and he didn't have the car, I think he was just playing coy. I think he's got the car. I think we're going to see a lot more success from him, in the next several weeks.
The win for Reddick, we keep every week talking about Bubba Wallace, who didn't have a good race this week. I think he wrecked early on. So Bubba Wallace, who last year was the story for 23XI when he finally got a win after waiting for so long. He's sort of in the shadow when for so long what we talked about with 23XI Racing was Bubba Wallace. Now that a lot of that conversation has shifted to Tyler Reddick, is that a good thing for Bubba Wallace?
I do think it's good because it's taking the pressure off him. I mean, he's been the guy that everybody's been focused on the last couple of years. And, he has a great win, obviously, in Indianapolis last year at the Brickyard. Biggest race win of his career. It was only the third, of course. But, he just had so much distractions, if you will. The whole lawsuit thing last year that dragged on through the entire season before it was settled in December. He's had personal issues that are well documented. So I think that even though he hasn't had the success that Reddick has had this year, it's actually kept some of the pressure off of him. And I think that, Bubba, when he finally wins, I'm not saying if he finally wins, I'm saying when he finally wins, it's going to take, it'll give him the confidence that not only can he do it, but then, the entire 23XI team is going to be able to do it. I mean, Riley Herbst's the other driver on the team too. I mean, he has some success, so he needs to get some success as well. So I think if you look at Bubba, he's a win waiting to happen. When he gets that win, it's going to really elevate his game and even further elevate 23XI's team, overall game.
Last thing, I got 45 seconds, a peek ahead at Martinsville. What are you looking for?
Short track guys, you got to look at Denny Hamlin. You got to look at Kyle Larson. Those are the two guys, maybe Chase Elliott as well. The short track specialists are the guys who are going to be doing the win. And I would not be surprised to see Tyler Reddick win this one as well, because he's a short track guy as well, too. So my guess is the guys that have the success on the short tracks win it. And it's going to probably be, if I had to pick one guy, I'm going to go Denny Hamlin. I think he's about ready to really take off. After that win in Vegas, he's ready to take off and do another 5 or 6 wins this year as well, too.
I love short track racing. Love to watch the short track racing.
The hot dog.
By the way, Kyle Larson plus 550 to win the Cup championship. Denny Hamlin at plus 600. Tyler Reddick at plus 600. Your top three when you look at the odds right now. Jerry Bonkowski, check him out. EssentiallySports.com for all your sports stuff, especially when it comes to NASCAR. Appreciate it, my friend. Be well. We'll catch up next week.
Sounds good, man. Take care.
Welcome back to the show. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby. Tomorrow, David Aardsma is here. He's going to be with us on Wednesdays during the season, but tomorrow he's here because we're doing our baseball extravaganza. We will have predictions, things we could all laugh at later in the season, about how little we know about baseball, even though we all think we know ball. Right, Sam Yarnell? Well, we all think we know ball, but we really don't. No. Nodding looks good on TV, by the way.
That's true.
It works even better on the audio podcast, which if you have not subscribed yet, you should go and do so. Sam nodding his head in audio, it sounds amazing. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast is the place to listen to the show Monday through Friday, 45 minutes waiting there for you early each afternoon. If you have not subscribed yet, go to whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. Also, the Sports Wrap Spotlight is available there, which is also available on our YouTube channel. what is the SportsWrap Spotlight? It's the extended conversations that we can't fit into the TV show, or sometimes just the conversations that we have on the TV show. And if you just want to hear from our guests that we have on the program, you can go and get that in the SportsWrap Spotlight. Our YouTube channel is the place for all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the TV show, Monday through Friday available there, 45 minutes commercial free. The NBA Weekly with Kurt Heelan, again, extended conversations. The SportsWrap Shorts, which if you have not checked these out yet, SportsWrap Shorts, 1 to 3 minute long videos. The top stories break, bang, we're right there in SportsWrap Shorts with some of those. Can I tell you a funny, Sam, I got to tell you a funny story. I'm gonna blow this segment up. Here we go. My mom calls me yesterday. Whenever my mom calls, I'm like, who died? Because that's the only time I hear from anybody in my family is if somebody died. So I said, Mom, what's the matter? She goes, I needed to ask you. I was looking at your social media, and I saw Sam doing a SportsWrap short. Is he taking over? Because I didn't see you, I saw him. And I was like, no, he's just helping out. You know, he's pitching in, I wanted to see how he looked doing SportsWrap shorts. So she's like, oh, okay, I just wanted to see. And then she commented on how cute you were. My mom, you have an 81-year-old woman who thinks you're a hottie, by the way. Just so you know.
Well, let me tell you this, Jason. Mrs. Page is not the first. But I will say this, Mrs. Page, if you're listening, I do hope you're offended by Jason's impression of you. I mean, that cannot be. I've never met the woman. I'm sure she's wonderful. That cannot be what she sounds like in person.
Yeah, she kind of does. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some odds and ends. Sorry, Mom. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Bryson DeChambeau, a winner back-to-back weeks on the LIV Tour at their enormously successful event in South Africa. You know how I know it was really successful? Because every shill for LIV Golf has felt the need to go on social media and tell us how successful it was, even though probably 70,000 people watched it on television this weekend. Listen, I'm sure in person, LIV Golf is probably a lot of fun. It seems like a lot of their events have sort of been that way. But stop shoving it down my throat how great it is when nobody's watching it. Seriously, and I just stop. But Bryson DeChambeau wins, Sam Yarnell, and playing really well going into the Masters.
Yeah, gosh, LIV Golf confuses me. Bryson DeChambeau won this tournament, finished with the same score. Oh no, they had a playoff.
It was him and John Rahm.
I thought for a second that he and John Rahm weren't forced to go to a playoff, which would have made no sense in my brain.
Why not?
But I'm glad that they did, and I'm glad that was sorted out that way. I'll tell you what, for as gutted as LIV Golf is after the most recent round of this PGA reintroduction program or whatever the heck they're calling it.
Yeah.
It is good to see that, like, what LIV Golf needs in the wake of that is to have your best players win all the time every week and perform the best and show you that they're the best. And when you've got a 1, 2, 3 of Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, and then Thomas Detry, you're in a pretty good spot, right? And John Rahm playing well for the LIV Golf right now. That is a good thing, right? And Bryson DeChambeau, as we're sitting here talking about it, maybe he'll make a run at the Masters. We'll see. Wouldn't be the craziest thing any of us have ever seen. My question is, Jason, these guys are doing so well. Do you feel like they're long for LIV Golf? Kind of feels like they're coming back to the PGA Tour next summer.
At some point, they're all coming back. Let's just be honest about it.
Yeah.
At some point, they're all coming back. Last thing before we go, I had a chance. Las Vegas is the center of it all right now. We've got the NBA coming, baseball, 28, all of this stuff. The Frozen Four is here this year. I didn't even know that, by the way. UConn and Quinnipiac, a couple of schools from Connecticut, both in that NCAA hockey tournament, by the way. What, you wanted to throw something in?
No. Good for Quinnipiac. I can't remember if they're the defending champions or they're the 2 years ago defending champions, but regardless, it'll be fun. The Crown also getting started out in Las Vegas this week. The formerly known CBI, now the Crown, getting started tonight as well.
Yes. If you get a chance and you come out to Las Vegas, this weekend I went over to the Hall of Excellence over at Fontainebleau. This place, Jim Gray and Tom Brady own it. if you get a chance and you want to look at some amazing sports artifacts, head on over to Fontainebleau. Go check out the Hall of Excellence. All of Tom Brady's Super Bowl rings are there. I got to look at all of them. And it's got great narration. Morgan Freeman narrates some of it. Jim Gray narrates some of it. If you get a chance, go check it out. The Hall of Excellence over at Fontainebleau. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you to Bill Bender, Jerry Bonkowski, David Ardsma on the show tomorrow. Thanks to you, Sam. We'll see you all later.